Hey YouTubers, welcome back to John's Garage. We just got something in the mail today. Let's see what we got. Column lock bypass kit for my Corvette. The steering wheel won't turn. And some instructions. Looks pretty simple. It says it takes about an hour. Got to take the dash apart. So I got this off the internet from a place in Florida. Cost about $30 shipped to my house. Not bad. Hopefully it fixes the problem. Let's get started. Okay, so the first step is to remove this. And you probably noticed this is a Z06, but it has fog lights. Yes, I added those. Just changed this bezel. The wiring is already there, but bought the fog lights. They're real GM fog lights. And got that switch from a wrecking yard. So we're going to take that out. Go. Pull this out a little bit. There's a squeeze release on the back. There we go. So that's out. Let's put that away. Okay, so the next thing we got to do is take out this temperature sensor next to the ignition key. Just gently pry that out. Okay, so the secret to this is the tabs are actually on the left and right side. So got it out, and you can see the two tabs. So the way it fits in there is with the slots to the bottom. This is for sensing the air temperature inside the car for the air conditioning system. So we've got that off. We'll set that aside. So now we have a T15 screwdriver. T15 for this screw right here. It's always fun to try and hold a camera and use tools at the same time. There we go. That screws out. Now we go back over to the other side where the fog light was. And inside there is a... Put the camera in there. Okay, where the fog light switch is and the trunk release, there is another screw for T15. Let's get in there and unscrew that. Looks like the factory put a little crack in the plastic when they assembled the dash. This dash has never been out of this car before. So we've got that screw out of there. Okay, so now we have to get underneath the knee bolster here. And if you follow this contour just to the left and just to the right of the steering column, follow that contour down, there's a screw right there. Okay, it's a T15. So you get your T15 under there, and the screw goes straight upward. So get in there. Screw that one. And there's the screw there. There's the other screw. Okay, now that we got the two screws out from the knee bolster on the bottom, this corner here, we got to kind of pull back. It's tucked underneath this piece, so just pull back a little bit and it'll drop down. There we go. That's off. Okay, so on the other side of the steering column, a little more tricky here. Gotta pull this back out a little bit. Oh, there we go. And the knee bolster, as you pull this out about an inch, knee bolster will drop down. So get it out about another inch. There we go. Okay, and there's a connector on here. So we're going to have to get that unplugged. Okay, so the knee bolster, I just spun it around, laid it on the seat. We still got to get that connector off. So if we look inside there, get the camera in there, you can see inside there is a sensor that for the air temperature in the car, inside the car, and there's that connector. So I think if we get a screwdriver underneath there, we could pull that out. Pull that connector out. Okay, so I was able to pull that connector out. I had to put the camera down for a second. So the way to do it is to get your screwdriver, like I showed, underneath the connector. Pry that down while you pull the wire out. Okay, and that wire is off. Now we can set the knee bolster aside. Okay, so now we got to find the connector for the column lock. So if we look underneath, give you perspective, I'm coming in from the side here, just underneath the turn signal. You see that yellow connector? I'm going to put my hand up from the bottom side, right next to the yellow connector. You see that black connector where my finger is? That black connector next to the yellow one. I'm going to lay on the floor, looking up from the brake pedal, put my head next to the gas pedal, and I'm going to grab this black connector next to the yellow one. Okay? That's what I want. So I'm underneath the steering column, looking up. So there's that big yellow connector. There's the black one next to it with the purple, green, orange, and black wire. So we've got to get that disconnected. The locking tab. The locking tab faces the passenger side. I could just get my thumbnail under that locking tab and lift it while pulling down on the wires. And I got it. Sorry about the focus. It's not the best camera. I got it. I got it right there. So now I'm going to hang that wire down. We got the female side is up there. I can see the female side. Come on, focus. So that's where we're going to plug in our column lock bypass square box. Is going to plug in there. And the cigarette lighter is going to plug into the male end that's hanging down. Let's see if I can get the... Okay, I've got the column lock bypass in my hand here. I put a label on it so that in the future, if I ever work on this car again, I'll know what this box is. Steering column lock bypass. It's got the male end, and so the little bumps that stick out have to go towards the passenger side so it meets with that locking tab. So I'm going to put the camera down and stick that up in there, and it's going to take me 2 hands to plug this in. Okay, so I just crawled out from underneath the car. We've got our column lock bypass plugged in and hanging here, and we've got the male connector hanging down. So now we're going to get our cigarette lighter adapter that came with the kit, and we're going to plug this in. Okay, so just plug that in. This is only temporary, according to the instructions. So, okay, so now we're going to plug in the cigarette lighter. So take this out for a minute. Get the end that came with the kit. Plug that in to the cigarette lighter. Now we're going to take our key. I'm going to lower the steering wheel so I can see the dash. Okay, so we put the key in, and we're going to just turn it to hear the steering column unlock. Pull key, wait 10 seconds. Great. So now we're going to have to... Oh, it's unlocked. That's good. It is unlocked. That is good. Okay, so after pulling the key and waiting 10 seconds, and a little bit longer than that, we will put the key back in and try one more time. Okay, let me hit the reset because the door is open. There we go. And there's nothing on the dash. The steering wheel moves. And I didn't even hear that unlocking when I turned on the key. So let me do it one more time. So key is out. I'm going to put the key in. And I'm going to listen for any sound the steering column makes. So there is no sound for that locking pin being removed. So looks like this device is working. So I'm going to turn off the key, remove the cigarette lighter attachment from the kit because we don't need that anymore, and then start putting the dash back together. Okay, so We don't need this cigarette lighter adapter anymore, so pull the little locking tab with my thumbnail. Use my finger instead. There we go. There. So we don't need this cigarette lighter kit anymore. That part we don't need, so let's set that aside. So when I tuck this up inside the dash, I'm going to put some bubble wrap around it, because on the other side of this styrofoam is metal, and I don't want this plastic box clanking around and making noise, so I'm going to wrap it in some bubble wrap and put a little electrical tape, close the bag, and stick it up in there, and then tuck all the wires back up. I think that'll prevent it from rattling. Okay, so now we're going to put the dash back together. The first step is to put the knee bolster in, and the first thing you got to do is plug in that air temperature sensor. So let's get that over here. Hard to hold a camera and do that at the same time, but plug in the connector into the air sensor. Okay, so we got the air sensor plugged in. Let's turn the knee bolster around. It's hanging by its wire right now. And get that pushed back up in. You got to start over by the ignition switch. Pull that out about 2 inches and tuck it up under. Pulling this out, pushing the knee bolster up, wiggle it around a little bit. And then on the other side, make sure you get the connector for the fog lights and trunk release pulled through that hole. Push the side up by the door. Okay, now go underneath the dash and find those 2 screw holes. There we go. These are T15 screws. And if the little clip came out when you're underneath the dashboard, make sure that goes back up there for that screw to go into. So just pry it down a little bit and slide that back in there so it lines up with the screw. Okay, so you'll know if that screw lined up with the metal piece in there, because the screwdriver will get tight turning that screw in there. If it keeps spinning and spinning, then you got to look up there and see where that clip is, because it's not lined up right. This should be a tight fit. Okay, so same with the other screw. That's by the gas pedal. Your T15 screwdriver should turn that screw tight, because if it's spinning, you miss the clip. That one's a little easier. The one on the over by the door in front of the clutch pedal is a little harder to get aligned, but once it's aligned, that screw should be firmly in there. So now we got to do the screw for the air temperature sensor. That screw should be firmly in there. Okay. So now, put our cover back on. The vents go to the bottom. There we go. That is in place. So now we go to the other side and do our trunk release and or fog lights if you got them. So here's the trunk release and fog lights. Connector on the back. That holds it in. Nice solid snap for the clip. Snaps in. And I got ahead of myself. I almost forgot a screw in there. So let's pop that guy out again. There we go. So there's a screw hole up in there. Get a light there for you. Screw hole. So let's get that screw going in there with our T15 screwdriver. Okay. So we've got that screw up in there. Put our fog lights back. There we go. Okay, so now the dash is all back together. Let's try it out one more time and see if we got any issues. Put the key in. No errors. That's good. So at this point you might be asking yourself, now that you've disabled the steering column lock when the car is parked, how are you going to protect the car? Well, I got an answer for that. There. You lock it up. That's my answer. So with everything back together and tested, I think we can call that job done.